2, 1, 0. We're live. Ten.
I think we've lost Dan.
Shab, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please. We lost Dan.
Just hold on a minute.
Oh, we see him.
Test.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry about that, everybody. Yes, so as I was saying, as we move into the final midday, this will be hosted by Yunus Centre, looking at microcredit. So microcredit has been implemented around the world as a strategy to empower poor and especially women in income generating activities, helping them take control of their lives and livelihoods. Many microfinancial institutions have been operating for many years here in Africa and East Africa. This session is intended to review the experience of microfinance in Africa, elsewhere, and see the potential for expansion of the microcredit region and beyond for now and years to come. So I'd like to hand over to my moderator, the Managing Director of Grameen Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. We welcome all our distinguished panelists and distinguished participants. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening also. My name is Abdul Khan. I'm the Managing Director of Grameen Trust. I started my job with Grameen Bank in 1981 and associated with Nobel Laureate person of the Yunus more than 40 years. And I'm a practitioner of microfinance and social business. I'm delighted to moderate this session. This is very high valued session. All are very influential and experienced persons who speak about the microfinance in the world. First of all, I would like to request our main speaker, Nobel Laureate Professor Mohammed Yunus. No need to introduce about him. So, sir, I would like to, as you are the father of microcredit and social business, you founded Grameen Bank as a social business entity, which is now the role model and inspiration of the entire world in the field of poverty alleviations. We would love to hear from you how microfinance as a social business play the important role to achieving the goal of zero poverty and zero unemployment and creating the entrepreneurs. Professor Mohammed.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted. I'm delighted that we meet all the leaders of microfinance in the world right now in front of me. It's a great opportunity to kind of look back of what's happening with microcredit, and in the context of pandemic again, because this is what kind of overriding issue that touches everything that we discuss right now. Microcredit has become more important than ever, because one of the things that pandemic has done, pushed people way back under the poverty and below poverty and close to poverty. There's a massive number of people out there, and they need their survival. And there is no survival mechanism elaborated in our economic theory, in our economic institutions, and so on. Finance could be a key issue in this situation, where you can make people alive again, so that they can start their own initiatives, start taking charge of their own life, particularly women who have done excellent work throughout the world through microfinance, turning themselves into entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship and microfinance are the two key words for the present situation. And I hope this will be the elaboration of discussions here. And there, the financial institutions completely kept themselves aloof from the idea of microfinance, although microfinance has been applauded throughout the world, but the mainstream banking system never came anywhere near it. It stayed the same way as it is. Occasionally, mainstream banks may have lent money to the microfinance institutions, not to the actual borrowers. So this they want to still remain distant from. So we need to go back to that issue, why somehow microfinance is not being adopted by the financial institutions and keeping microfinance as a footnote in the story of my banking system. So how to make it mainstream? One missing point that I strongly feel that the microfinance banking doesn't have any law to support it. So there is one banking law, which is a banking for the rich. You create banks for the rich. That's what the banking law allows you. That legislation, that law doesn't allow microfinance banks to be created. They said this needs a different kind of legal treatment and a legal space required by them. So one of the fundamental issues now, I would say that to create a law to create bank for the poor and accommodate all the facilities, all the space that the microfinance organizations will be needing. And this is the right time to go into that, because otherwise this damage that we have done to our system and to the people, massive number of people, will never be able to recover very soon. It will take a long, long time to do that. Government can make stimulus packages of all kinds to keep them alive for a while, but that doesn't solve the basic problem. They have to be on their feet, they have to be active, they have to create their own creative activity and so on. And that's where, when you design that law, every single country have to have a law for the bank for the poor, like they already have the bank for the rich, the law for the bank for the rich. When you legislate that law, I would strongly recommend that the law prescribes that this bank should be a social business microfinance bank. So it's a legislation for creating social business microfinance bank, so that these banks are not created to turn themselves into loan sharks, because our experience is bad. Wherever microfinance went, the idea went, and some people, the smart people, want to use the microfinance idea to make themselves rich by lending money to poor people. They even claim that it's a wonderful mechanism. You get yourself wealthy by lending money to poor people. So this is not the purpose of microcredit. That's not how the Grameen Bank was created. We always make it very sure that we create social businesses for microfinance. That's the real identity of microfinance banking. So this is one area that I would very strongly support and recommend. And when it comes to Africa, if they're paying attention to that subject, and they must attention to the subject, because Africa is powered by women. So this microfinance has shown very strongly all over the world. This is what makes the women stronger. So this is a very essential thing. And we are always talking about entrepreneurship. And Africa will lead in entrepreneurship because of the women and because of the youth of the population. It's a very high percentage of population is young population, and it's getting younger every day. So this is one continent which is getting younger and younger. And this is a big opportunity to make that happen. So microfinance should be a social business banking. And on top of it, I should say, not only loan, not only credit, there should be also now creation of institutions like equity, so that there'll be equity institutions like venture capital funds and so on, to invest in the new entrepreneurs who are coming up, the young people, unemployed young people, to turn themselves into entrepreneurs by providing the equity support, equity investment in those institutions. So these are the two issues that I would like to share with the community that we are working together for such a long time. So how to make it happen, and what are the experiences that we have around us. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Professor Yunus, for your insightful and directional speech. Before going to second speaker, I'd like to give one example of the microfinance as a social business. We Grameen Trust established one organization in the provincial autonomy province of Inner Mongolia in China, and established one company following the principle of social business, and we called it Grameen Microcredit Company. Grameen Trust became the 99% shareholder of this company, and Beijing Nongfa Foundation for Poverty Alleviation became the 1% shareholder of that company. And we have started this company in 2011. From 2015, this company earned profit. But as we established this company as a social business company, so we can't declare any dividend, and profit plow back to the program. And currently, there is Shangdu is very small county, so there is only one branch, and that program has served more than 5,500 family, and now almost 100% become entrepreneurs, and they're running very well. And even during this pandemic, this program is also going very well. They never stop operations, even disbursement and collections. They have also utilized this digital platform to collect money and disburse money. So is it possible to establish microfinance organization as a social business? And Grameen Shangdu Microcredit Company is the unique example of microfinance as a social business. So now I would like to invite Mr. Shafi Nambabi, CEO of Aga Food Microfinance of Uganda. He has a 19 years experience in the field of microfinance. So Mr. Shafi, you are working in Uganda. Do you think microcredit is changing the lives of your clients in Uganda, especially women? If so, how? And what are the challenges and potentiality of microfinance program in East Africa? Can you say briefly, as because your time is 4 minutes only. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks so much for the introductions. Of course, microcredits have been in this field for over 20 years. And when I started working as a promoter and then a loan officer, I thought that when time would come when there would be nobody that needs to borrow money. I thought that when they borrow money at once, I would make enough money, and then they would have enough money that they can be able to use. Of course, this issue of microcredit in Uganda, when the COVID pandemic came, and also the lockdown, where the country was declared total lockdown, we really saw the importance of microcredit. And again, if you look at the percentage of people living in Uganda, over 85% live in Uganda and in the rural areas. And of course, financial services, I think Professor Yunus really mentioned about banking, saying banking is for the rich. I think I tend to agree with that chronology, because we don't have any commercial banks in the villages, and yet the majority of the people are living in the villages. And then, of course, again, commercial banks need collateral. Now, when it comes to women in Uganda, owning land, that is a challenge. Women don't own anything. So how can they be able to access financial services that can help them? And yet, when it goes to the family obligations, they are the ones that are taking children to school. They are the ones that are looking after the children when the men are away. And of course, we have seen this quite evolving. with the telecoms also starting to give microcredit. And we see that people are borrowing as low as $2. So there's no commercial bank that can be able to give that. So how do the women benefit? Of course, again, I would like to give an example of say mandazi seller or a lady in the market selling tomatoes. She only has working capital of about 10,000 Ugandan shillings, which is about $3. But when she trades 10,000, maybe she's able to make another 5,000, which is $2 profit. So when she needs money in lump sum, she can be able to get money from microcredit, and then she can be able to get whatever she wants, and then she can be able to collect through the daily sales, then she can make an installment. Again, when we go to the COVID pandemic, we saw that when the curfew hours were introduced, we see families suffering more, especially those that were selling vegetables. They had to use their working capital, they came to zero. So that means that they cannot be able to survive unless they have other sources where they can be able to get funding from. And then, of course, when it comes to paying school fees, this is needed in lump sum. Where they get money to pay? And yet, like I mentioned, the working capital is quite too low. And yet, in schools, they need school fees in lump sum. So, microcredit helps women to do that. And the women, of course, they continue to be marginalized. Then, when it comes to challenges, of course, again, looking at the infrastructure, and then I mentioned that over 85% of women are staying in rural areas. So how do you reach them? The infrastructure is quite a challenge. That increases the cost of delivery. So it becomes quite expensive even for the microfinance institutions to deliver these services. And again, Professor Yunus also mentioned about commercial banks lending to microfinance institutions. So they lend them at an interest rate that is already quite high. And then the microfinance institutions needs also to get a margin on it. So when they add from what they borrow from commercial banks, and then they also add something, and then it becomes quite expensive to lend out money to women. And then, of course, we still have challenges of some societies where a woman gets money, and then the husband is waiting for the woman to come from, say, the group meeting. And as the woman comes back from the group meeting, the husband takes away the money from them, which they have borrowed, and then they struggle paying back the money. So these are some of the key challenges. And again, because they don't have collateral, you find that they have to borrow from one institution to the other, and then they end up being overburdened. They borrow more than they need. And then by the end of the day, you find that instead of building their families, you disintegrate the family, where now the woman goes into hiding. She cannot be able to even attend to their farm because she's fearing that the microfinance institutions that could be following on such a
Thank you,
person.
Mr. Shafi. That's because your time is over, sorry. So now, naturally, in microfinance everywhere, the funding is a challenge. But if you look at the Grameen Bank, initial stage, Grameen Bank also faced same problem. But if you have a regulatory permission to mobilize the savings from the borrowers as well as non-borrowers, that will also mitigate the funding problem. And that is also our experience in Grameen. Now, Grameen Bank have more savings than the outstanding portfolio. So now I would like to request our third speaker, Ms. Nurjan Begum. Nurjan Begum has been associated with Nobel laureate Professor Mohammad Yunus and Grameen Bank since very beginning. And she was also the managing director of Grameen Bank, which is the biggest social business entity of the world. Would you please share your experiences how Grameen Bank contributes to empower the million of poor women in Bangladesh? And as we know, Grameen Bank model now replicating many countries around the world, including East Africa. So do you see any potential of microfinance as a social business in East Africa? Ms. Nurjan Begum. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hi,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing. Please.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for your. Thank you.
Time is full.
Thank you. Thank you. I think during early age of Grameen Bank, Dr. Yunus used to say, money has power, money can speak. During that time, I did not understand how money could speak. But very soon I realized how money can speak. I will share two stories of two women. One is Kotbanu. She came from very poor family, and she used to work for other people's house during her childhood. And she got married when she was teenager. Her husband was landless, homeless, and he was a laborer. So Kotbanu became a mother of 3 daughters, and her husband was very angry. Why 3 daughters? She wants boy, child. And he threatened his wife, if 4th time he delivered any girl, she would divorce her. In the meantime, Kotbanu joined Grameen, and she took a loan for petty husking, deer, chicken, vegetable gardening, blah, blah, blah. And within a couple of loans, she gradually increased her business. Now, her husband's attitude toward her totally changed. She told me that, before joining to the Grameen, my husband never bring any medicine for me if I feel sick. Or even in Korea, homeopathic Korea. Not only that, she said that her husband beaten her 3 times because he had ate the fish, head of the fish. Usually in Bangladesh, that time, head of the fish kept for the man. But after growing her business, and he's earning much more than her husband, now her husband not only offer her head of the fish, he sometimes take her to the doctor too. And second, Nur Jahan, she's an abandoned woman by her husband. Her husband got another wife, and Nur Jahan compelled to left the house, and she started to live near the road, railway roadside, and make a hut and start to live there. During night time, she used bamboo cutter for her. She and her daughter's safety. Normally, she used to go to the hill and cut the wood, cut the bamboo, cut the grass, and sell it up. And this is her livelihood. Then she heard from someone, the Grameen Bank, and she, with a lot of struggle, she joined Grameen and started to work. She took loan for making basket, mat, and other things. And several times she took the loan, and she increased her business. And she was a very strong woman, and she became the center chief. So far I know, she was the second in Grameen, the center leader, who started the joint venture rice mill in center with the collaboration of the whole center. So now she built her house, she has her own toilet, she has her own tree well, everything she has. Now her husband wants to come back. So I asked her what was her decision. She told me, see sister, if you split from your mouth, do you like to have it? I think this is the dignity of life. This is the empowerment. Grameen Bank brings all this dignity and empowerment for this million women. Dr. Yunus always put importance or focus on. Okay, Dr. always gives importance to the poor peoples, and he introduced housing loan for the poor. He introduced technology for the poor. He knows that technology can bring much good benefit for this poor women. So he started Grameen phone, mobile phone company, and this women start to give loan, start to sell the service and get the money. And this mobile not only bring the money, also bring lots of impact, social impact on their life. And when Dr. Yunus introduced housing loan, he put a condition that if anybody wants to have a housing loan, land must be the name of the person. So now when women ask for a loan house, then husband has to transfer a piece of land to her, or she has to buy land, land on herself. Then through Grameen housing loan to build the house. Now it was difficult for husband to divorce her. So many research have been done with the Grameen housing loan, and all said that divorce rate sharply came down within the Grameen. Now today 9.5 million borrower we have, and all these women, their outstanding loan amount is 1.7 billion, and their savings amount is 1.9 billion US dollar. This is their savings is more than their loan, and they can start new bank also. So I think for anywhere, and they are the owner of this bank. And out of the 13 member in the board, they are the 9 from this women. For Eastern Africa, I think there's a lot of NGO running microcredit. But one important thing is that you have to, mindset is important. Your objective should be important. In the name of microcredit, if we are using it as a maximizing profit, then I think it can't bring the benefit, actual benefit for the poor. So if you your objective is clear, if your mindset is clear, then you can run this. Like Grameen always focus to the women, and all the company, Dr. Yunus created a lot of companies to address their problem, to solve their problem, like Grameen Healthcare, Grameen Kullan, Grameen Shikha, all of this bring to benefit these women.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nurjan Begum. Just I would like to supplement few things about the potentiality of in the microfinance in East Africa. I had an experience to visit Zambia, as because Grameen Trust was established one microfinance program in Zambia, financed by UNDP, Zambia. And I had an opportunity to visit in 2008. There was a 4 branches in 4 different rural areas. And there, I visited all these 4 branches. And after that, the UNDP arranged one big gathering among the members of the program. And they shared their experiences. What type of difficulties they was faced before they joined Grameen program. What type of struggling they did before joining the Grameen program. But after joining the Grameen program, they are economically solvent. They generate their income and they empowered. And you know, Africa basically female-dominated family. And every family in the Zambia I have found, not every family, they have take care 4, 5, 6, even 10 HIV child. Those have no father and mother. Father and mother died due to HIV. So they take care themselves. So, and their income is generating, so they feed all of them and running very well. And on that gathering, they expressed their satisfaction like on that way. They said, the project director of that program The name is Mr. Rashidul. They said, Rashidul is our God. If Rashidul will not come to the Zambia, we will not survive. And we never forgot Mr. Rashidul. That's why at least 20 female newly born baby, they named Rashidul to remember the name of Rashidul, to remember the name of the contribution of Grameen. So that's why I said there is a potentiality in East Africa if we will have designed pro-poor program and provide best quality service to the poor, and we never be mission drift. We never be profit maximizing, not be our motto. Provide the best quality service, financial service and other service to the people is only the vision. Then I think there is a huge potentiality in the East Africa. And when we handed over this program to the MBT, Micro Trust Bank, local NGO, everything was 100%. So that's the example in many countries, like in East Africa also. So now I would like to go to Miss Catherine. As you know, she is working as the senior advisor of Grameen Creative Agricole Microfinance Foundation and responsible to look after East and Southern Africa. And we know Credit Agricole Foundation funded 21 microfinance projects and 2 social business programs in East Africa and invested more than 31.62 million euro. So Catherine, would you speak about the role of microfinance in East Africa in empowering the poor women through the support of their income generating activities to take control of their own lives? Catherine.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me a chance to be part of this panel. When we speak about East Africa, first of all, I think it's important to understand that this is a very diverse region. My own views are shaped by having lived in Rwanda for the past 10 years, and Rwanda stands out as a very small country with one language, one culture. But as soon as we look at the other countries in the region, we have hundreds of cultures, hundreds of different languages. Shafi mentioned, for example, that in Uganda, women don't own land. Here in Rwanda, it's quite different. My husband and I automatically share all of our properties 50-50, anything we buy. So I think it's very important that we don't generalize too much. That said, however, I do think that there are a few things that hold true across East Africa, across the whole region. And one of those is that at the center of nearly every family, you will find a woman. As Professor Yunus said earlier, Africa is powered by women. So what is this empowerment of women that we hope for, and why do we think that microfinance, out of all things, might help us achieve that? So let's first take a look at a typical poor woman living somewhere in rural East Africa. She's not a microfinance client. Does this woman engage in finance? Yes, most definitely she does. She probably doesn't have any savings, but at times she's borrowed money from friends, from family, from others in the community. She may have even lent money to others at different times. And does this woman have a way of earning money? Yes, again, it's probably quite limited and irregular, but she might be growing some extra food and selling it, or she might be doing some seasonal work for other farmers. So what is it that changes once this woman joins the microfinance? There are, of course, the immediate, the tangible benefits. She has a reliable, regular access to funding, hopefully a way to start saving, many good things. But for me, the most substantial shift happens on the inside. Anyone who's ever had to ask others for money knows that this can be incredibly humiliating. getting a business loan from a formal institution that lends to you because they believe in you is a very different story. Getting a group loan means that you first have to convince a number of other people of the merits of your idea, of your business. And that's something that you absolutely cannot do if you don't believe in yourself first. So you can see that little by little, a woman who's joined a microfinance will gain confidence, and this confidence can turn into courage. And after a while, she might just push the boundaries a bit and try something new. So for me, it's this internal transformation that allows empowerment to cascade into many areas of life. I met, for example, a widow in Kenya who had a small grocery store, nothing fancy at all, but she somehow managed to squeeze enough profits out of this store to put 5 children through school and university. If you looked at that woman, you would think that her circumstances hadn't changed much, but it was quite obvious that she was not only proud of her achievements, but full of hope for the future. I met another woman in Uganda, and she first invested in her own business for some time. And then after a while, she took out a loan to support the family's hardware store, which was actually run by her husband. And that was a great example for me to see the two of them working together, because I think it's important to remember that every woman is part of a family, is part of a larger community. So an empowered woman will empower her family and will empower her community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So now I'd like to go to Miss India Jang. India Jang is the President and CEO of Grameen America, which is the largest Grameen replication program in the USA, even in the world also. India, more than 40 million people live in the poverty in the United States. Many of these families are not able to make ends meet. They are often working at minimum wage jobs for struggling to get their small business off ground. Please share with us how Grameen America contributes to change the lives of the poor women in USA. And what are the key factors to the resilience of Grameen America that help to evaluate the 100% virtual operation during the COVID-19 pandemic? India Jang.
Thank you so much for having me on this panel. Well, I think one of the great myths and false assumptions is that microfinance is not necessarily a big opportunity for the mature and developed world. And I think that Grameen America over our last 12 years has proven that the need for microfinance is as strong as anywhere in the world, be it Africa, India, Bangladesh, that there are 40+ million people living in poverty. That number has gone up, as everyone can imagine, in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. And women are disproportionately affected. More than 56% of those in poverty are women. And yet they are disadvantaged in terms of access to capital, access to financial inclusion, even in the United States. And their only option for many, many women here in the United States are payday lending, loan sharks, as Professor Yunus was talking about, which is an issue around the world, but also true here, even in the richest cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Houston. The only option for affordable capital for a lot of the women has been Grameen. Some other smaller microfinance organizations, but we're the largest. So today we've served over 135,000 women across 15 cities. Soon we will have given out $2 billion of loan capital at a 99+% repayment rate. And just to speak about the pandemic, we were able to give out 86,000 recovery and relief loans during the pandemic, And this was nearly $400 million. All of our members were able to continue repaying at 99.6% since July of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic here in the United States. And this has been a testament, I think, to our members and the staff here in the microfinance program. We are the only US microfinance organization that has a research project, a randomized control trial. And this research has studied the impact of microfinance in the United States through the Grameen program on women who participate in Grameen versus similar women in poverty who were denied a loan. And this study has been going on for 5 years, and we are about to issue the final report in September of 2021. And the results are very, very positive. There is statistical significant improvement in business revenues, in members' ability to have material hardship, which is the formal way of proving that they are able to have a pathway out of poverty. And those things measure their ability to pay their rent, to stay in their homes, to buy a prescription medication, to keep their children in school, and pay their health care. So the measurement has proven that those participating in Grameen America are statistically more significant than those who do not, who are very similar women. So it's a very powerful piece of research, I think, for the United States and particularly for Grameen. One thing that is very, very impactful is savings. And while we are not a formalized, recognized bank like the Grameen Bank, and therefore we do not have our own savings, which is something we are working towards, we do encourage and have partnerships with other financial institutions so that our members can save. And the difference in savings between Grameen members and those that weren't in this study was almost $1,000 US. And of all of our members that I've spoken to, one of the things that got them through the pandemic was the savings. One difference for the Grameen members to keep their businesses open and keep their families solvent during this time were the Grameen savings discipline. It has been a very powerful tool coming into 2021. And I would just also say that the very, very important thing for us was the pivot to virtual operations. And to all of our friends in Africa, East Africa, I mean, I think that one thing that I found when I joined 7 years ago was that the United States was actually behind many, many countries in terms of technology, in cloud-based and mobile and digital technology for the poor. And we were looking at programs like M-Pesa, things from Africa, which were a decade ahead of the US, and we had to scramble pretty quickly. But we were able over the last 3 years to convert to a completely digital model. And as I said to Haikhan and Professor Yunus at our Grameen America board meeting, you know, fix the roof while the sun is shining. We didn't know there would be a pandemic, but we invested in cloud-based technology so that every single member could really operate, and we could operate our lending program completely virtually. So that was ready before we hit 2020 and the month of March. And when all of the issues began in the United States, particularly you probably saw on TV in Queens, New York, which was the epicenter of the virus. That is also the central biggest part of Grameen America's operations is right here in New York City. And we were hit very hard, obviously, but our ability we pivoted in 10 days. We only actually paused operations for 3 business days to convert everything to virtual. So today, our center meetings, we have 2,600 center meetings going on every week. They're like this. They're Zoom meetings. And some of you might have been able to attend some of our Zoom meetings, but our members meet and the social capital is preserved. However, it's on video. So they don't have to go to their meetings where, of course, they cannot be 6 feet apart from each other in somebody's living room or basement. All of their repayments, all of the disbursements continued without a pause because we have 2 versions of digital disbursements. One is onto a card and one is right directly to their bank account. And therefore they do not have to see us in order to get a disbursement. And all the repayments are transmitted electronically as well. And they get a text receipt on their phone. And so 100% of Grameen from the center meeting to the entire loan operation is being done virtually. And this has enabled us to deal with some issues. I thought it was pretty interesting, Tafi, when you had mentioned infrastructure. Well, we are able to deal with some of the infrastructure issues because of the innovation of technology. If people are too far away from their center, now they can actually attend Grameen. If they were miles away from our Houston branch and perhaps thought they couldn't attend physically, they now can become a Grameen member because they can attend a virtual meeting. And so I think the technology that we've learned from the pandemic has been very innovative. And that after the pandemic, there will be aspects of the hybrid, physical and virtual, that will allow us infrastructure-wise to reach even more poor women across the United States. So there's never been more need for microfinance in the world, including in the United States. And I think that this past year has proven that to be true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, India. It's very, very interesting and very impressive and experiences regarding the digitalization of microfinance program in United States, and maybe it will be good lessons for others also. So before going to our last speakers, I would like to audience, if you have any questions, please put it into the Q&A box. I will try to place it to our distinguished speakers. And before going to our last speakers, I would like to say a few words about Youth Entrepreneurship Program. As we are implementing this program in Bangladesh and Kosovo and Yemen. All of us know the 30 goals of Professor Muhammad Yunus. Among the 3 zeros, to turning unemployment into entrepreneurship, zero unemployment goal is one of the main goals. So to achieve this zero unemployment goal, as advised by Professor Muhammad Yunus and initiated by Professor Muhammad Yunus, 3 Grameen company created social business fund and started to implement entrepreneurship program named Novin Equity Program. It's not a loan program, it's not a credit program, it's an equity program, it's a partnership business with the unemployed young in different rural areas. And up to March 2021, these 3 companies altogether created more than 70,000 entrepreneurs in Bangladesh only, and invested more than $10 million to their teeny business. And the entrepreneurs, these invested more than $6 million also. And it's a brainchild of Professor Yunus. It's one kind of social business. The companies, these 3 companies implemented this program as a social business. So they are following the principle of social business, not to take any profit from the business as a partner, but to cover the cost, and as provided various types of technical assistance to the entrepreneurs, business development, mentoring, counseling, orientation, motivation, networking, marketing, like this. So the program has charged 10% flat technical assistance cost per annum. And these 70,000 entrepreneurs created 40,000 additional jobs for other unemployed young in their locality. And what are the criteria? It's very simple, it's very, very easy way we design for the best fit of the youth or young people. The age bar we have from 18 to 35. Those who become 18 to 35 years old, they are eligible to join this program as entrepreneurs. Should have a will force to fulfill his her dream to establish, become a very successful entrepreneurs. And they have choice their projects or business, but the business or project should be environment friendly and socially acceptable. And the duration of to getting the equity investment is 1 year to 2 years, depend upon the entrepreneurs. It's the flexibility. If someone wants to take 1 year, they can take 1 year. If someone wants to take 2 years or more, they can take for that period also. And they will pay monthly installment instead of weekly, bi-weekly appeals. And the payment system will be online through banking channel or mobile banking channel. No cash is handling at all. And they are every day, all the entrepreneurs send an SMS regarding progress of their business. 5 basic information they send to the headquarters of the 3 companies. And we analyze this SMS and give our feedback if necessary. And now we replicated this program in Kosovo. So they have 294 entrepreneurs, invested more than 10 million euro. And these 294 entrepreneurs created more than 450 jobs for others. So, and recently last month, the Grameen Yemen also started this Novin program, one of their brands.
Hi, there are, I think, 2 more speakers waiting. So you have to give the time.
Yes, I'll finish, sir.
Yeah, please give the time to the speakers.
Sure. That means if we'll design the proper system.
You can talk about it after the speakers have done their
Okay. Thank you, sir.
because they are assigned, they are waiting.
So now I would like to request Mr. Suresh, I think. Probably Suresh is our last speaker.
No, Yannick is here too.
Oh.
Yes, Yannick is here.
No,
Yeah.
this is not in the sir.
Not yes, sir. Not.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
here.
okay.
Even closing speaker.
Sir, Yannick is for the closing session.
You're for the closing session. Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. So, Mr. Suresh, he's a co-founder of Yunus Social Business India, and he has a vast experience in the field of microfinance, as he's working in the Grameen Kota. So, I will ask Mr. Suresh. There are a number of microfinance organizations in India which play very important role to the development of the rural India. As a practitioner of microfinance and social business, how do you see the potentiality of microfinance as a social business in building the developing the poor women as entrepreneurs in India and of course beyond India? Mr. Suresh.
Thank you, Haikan. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Lamia, and everybody. So nice to be part of this panel discussion today. Yes, in India, I've been part of this microcredit movement since late 90s. It's more than 2 decades now. I would like to just probably give you a sense of the scale of what microfinance in India is doing. When we all started way back in India, I think we also got some seed capital funding from Grameen Trust. Professor Yunus gave us some seed capital to start a similar microcredit program similar to Grameen Bank in India. We had about 13 institutions Grameen Trust has funded, and there are others who had started off by themselves. That's in early 90s. But if you look at today, there are over 200 different kinds of institutions operating or providing microcredit services across the whole country. Many of them are very large today. In India, when we started off, I think we had a big challenge of how do we get access to funds and who will give that. Yes, Grameen Trust gave us a lot of money that time, which we thought it was a lot of money. Very soon we realized the money was very small. We had started off, and the need for funds to run microfinance was humongous. So we had to move the Indian banking system and the financial institution in India to actually start funding us. So that was it was a uphill task for us. But today, I would like to give a sense. Today, after more than 2 decades, if you look at in India, we reach out to more than 60 million poor households with microcredit across the whole country. The length and breadth of the country is covered. Yes, there is skewness in the way the coverage is there in India, but the South India might have higher coverage compared to Eastern India or Northern India. In India today, the whole microcredit scale, I mean, like the total amount outstanding is about $30 billion. And out of these 200 microfinance institutions or financial institutions providing microfinance, I would like to highlight only 33 of them are not-for-profits. The rest of them are either banks or non-banking finance companies, which are mostly for-profit in nature. Microcredit, one of the fundamental reasons for success of microcredit in India or elsewhere in the world is also because the poor women have always maintained high repayment rates. I think Andrea did mention about this earlier, and my earlier speakers also said the need for microcredit across the globe is same. I think all poor require similar services. That's one of my biggest learning. Whether it is Bangladesh, India, Africa, Southeast Asia, South America, or anywhere, or even United States, I think everywhere you find the people require money to start their own businesses and take care of their own lives. One of the fundamental principles of microfinance or microcredit is that we provide timely access to capital to these small entrepreneurs so that they can use these funds to invest in their businesses and then enhance their incomes, thereby taking care of their life. This has been proven across world. Year after year, you will see that. We have done a lot of research earlier too, but you will find that about if the microcredit borrowers are there in microfinance program for about 3 to 5 years, you will see them 20% or 30% of them actually moving out of poverty. That's the kind of impact microcredit has. But I would like to highlight a few things, because if East Africa is trying to look at microfinance in a big way, I think some of the learnings can come from India, because India started off struggling, but it became a very big program in India. Like I told about earlier, more than 60 million households is reached out to. But I would like to highlight even 60 million households for India. I think Indian microfinance institutions are reaching out to maybe about 30% of the poor households. Rest of them is still unreached in India too. So in India, I think there were a lot of things which happened during the period, but microcredit always stood back and recovered back. We had crises in 2010 when one of the state governments actually put brakes to microfinance movement, but because the central bank came back and rescued it, they kind of recovered. Basically, what happened during that time was one state government says we can't operate microfinance in the state. So that put fear in all the lending institutions across the world. And where the poor women were doing 100% on-time repayment, the next day morning, because of this new law from the government, 0% repayment was there. But after a couple of years, you will find that all the women have come back to normalcy again. This you will see time and again. Every crisis which microfinance institutions faces, or the people generally face, it is sure, it is true in Bangladesh too. Every year floods happen or drought happens, people do recover. But microfinance institutions need to design and adapt themselves to support the needs of the poor in a much better manner. That is what social business microfinance institutions are very much capable of. So I can tell you, when these crises happen, whether in 2010 when this government came out with a new law, or 2016 we had a demonetization when the government of India came out with banned certain currencies where the entire country was run out of cash. So it took about few months to recover. Even 2020 now, which the last COVID crisis, you'll find that when the whole world or the whole country or the whole regions where people did not have income for many times. But once the whole country was under lockdown, so was the world. All businesses were stopped. But once this lockdown was resumed back or removed, you will see that these women came back to normalcy very quickly. That means they wanted to bring back their life to normalcy. They started businesses once although lockdown was lifted, and then started coming back to their own normal business lives, or they took care of the life. So you will find that time and again that the poor always repay back. They always bounce back, and they want to come back to normalcy because they have a big future ahead for them. So they recover from the crisis or the problems they have, and then come back and continue to maintain high repayment rates. So if anybody anywhere across the globe, they want to start microfinance, one thing they can be assured of that the poor always require these financial services. And in case they go through a crisis, they will recover back from that and come back and repay back the money. So nobody need to worry about. But only thing is the MFIs need to be adaptive or to understanding the needs of these poor. Here is where you'll find differences in for-profit MFIs and not-for-profit MFIs, or the social business MFIs. Not-for-profit MFIs will try to see how to maximize for themselves, which you will see them. But whereas the not-for-profit or social business MFIs, which are even in India, about 33 of them are there, but unfortunately their portfolio is about only 5%. They reach out to 5% of the poor. You will see that when after the crisis, the not-for-profit MFIs or the social business MFIs are the first ones to recover back from their crises. The poor women will come back and support those MFIs, which are social business in nature, because they are actually helping the poor women to recover from their side, from their crises. How do they do that? One is they kind of understand them. They don't put pressure on repayments. Second one is they help them provide more money to help them restart their businesses again. They create products which are suitable to the life cycle needs of these women, and they understand the needs of the poor much better, because everybody cannot be like machines. The people are not machines. I mean, there are a lot of issues which they go around in their lives. So the MFIs, we need to be accommodative and understanding their positions. That is what social business MFIs mostly do. That is what has proven time and again that social business MFIs have recovered from the crises far more faster than the not-for-profit MFIs. For example, the current statistics, if you look at after this COVID situation happened, the repayment rates or the non-performing assets, or what we call the default rates in microfinance industry, was about 4% across the whole country, which shot up today as of December to about 14%. The reason for that is people are still struggling to recover from the COVID crisis. But out of this, the current repayment rates, usually which was about 99% across the country, dropped to almost 0% during the lockdown period. But most of the MFIs recovered back, and they're actually looking at 75% repayments today. But not-for-profit and social business MFIs have already reached to 99% on-time repayment back. It's not that they're doing something, they're using force to recover. It's just that people feel that these are the MFIs which are helping them during the time of crisis. So the people also go back and help those institutions to, so that, repay them on time, so that institutions can continue to support them. So these are some of the experiences, what I've been experiencing across the whole country during the last couple of decades of my experience in running a microfinance institution. Social businesses, MFIs, is one of the needs today, because in Africa, if they're going to be if they're going to come out with any new regulations, I would suggest that they should take recommendations from Professor Yunus, because he's been advocating that we need to have a specialized regulation for social business MFIs. Currently, we are just having banking regulations which is applied to MFIs, which is making MFIs to go and reach out to only those people who are easy to reach. So it has become burden or a responsibility of the social business MFI to go and reach out to those in the remote corners. But the competition is slightly putting social business MFIs in a difficult situation, because their repayment rates might be lower or their profitabilities might be lower. So hence the fund flow is difficult for them. So there is a need to create at a national level specialized funds for social business MFIs. Of course, it is important in India, but in other places, I think it will be useful to consider those things to build the microfinance sector in their own countries. I stop here and will be happy to take questions later.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you for your excellent experiences. So we have a few questions, but I will select one question for Professor Yunus from Maria Mohammed from Tanzania. She asked, in current era, there are so many challenges facing women in different criteria, either in social, economic, and political development. So which the good strategic methods used to overcome the challenges? It means there is any projects created to support them? Professor Mohammed.
Yeah, I was not supposed to receiving the question, but I thought the speakers would.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's again, it's most important. The highest importance I will put is in the financial institution, because this is very basic. Unless we fix the financial institutions, you cannot address any other issues, because you get stuck with the here. And in the financial institutions, addressing particularly with the priority or the for the women, this is one. And then also creating financial institutions for equitative purposes, like for the young people to transform themselves into entrepreneurs. These are the two issues I think it's most important. But you must pay attention to the entire financial system. What is it doing? We take it for granted that now they are doing their business, but that they are doing business, but you have to see that it doesn't harm the society. That has to be very careful, that you create a division, you create a disparity within the society by running the way the financial system is running now.
Okay. So thank you all the distinguished speakers. I think the potential of microfinance in East Africa is very important issues. Currencies, not only in current situation, for all the situations. And microfinance proved that it's the very powerful tools to fight against poverty, to create entrepreneurs among the poor people, and to generate income and to empower the poor women. If the women become empowered in the family, whole family become empowered. And if whole family become empowered, community will be empowered, and gradually the country will be go fast. So there is a very interesting experience sharing among the diversified practitioners in different countries. And we hope all of the participants can learn a lot about these experience sharing sessions. Thanks all the distinguished participant speakers again, and thanks the Catholic University for arranging this Social Business East Africa Forum. And we hope in future there will be a more social business as a microfinance will create in East Africa. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haikon. And yes, thank you again to the panel for that session. It's really great that we finished with that session. We've been speaking the last 2 days around youth entrepreneurship and what tools and what actual measures can we give and can we share to enable it, and microfinance being a fantastic option for affordable and reasonable finance. So really, really great to get into that, understand more about what's going on, what can be done, and what is already being done. So really exciting stuff. So thank you again to your panel. And thanks again to everybody who's participated in the last 2 days. Everybody at Catholic University in Zimbabwe, thank you so much for being our in-person team and making this a real full grounded event. We have a short break now before we head over to our closing session, but we'll just have a few thank yous and some words from some of our friends who've made this such a exciting, engaging, interactive 2 days. So stick around. There'll be a short break now, and we'll be right back with the closing session.